I'm going to talk you through the parts of the bass, what they're called, and basically what they do. So we're going to start here with the headstock, and then we'll move on to the neck and the body. So the headstock, there's really only a few things to worry about. This is, of course, where your strings attach at the headstock end, and they attach to the tuners. There are a few different components here that you can remember the names of, but basically, if you remember, these are the tuning knobs, these are the tuning pegs. That's close enough for now. And then here you've got the nut, which is where the strings rest at the end of the headstock. And there's one thing that's not on this headstock that is on this Fender P-Bass headstock, which is called a string tree. And this is a little piece of metal that the strings rest under so that they get a nice strong contact with the nut. And you can also see between these two headstocks that different basses will be arranged differently. This bass has all four tuners on one side. This bass is split 2 and 2. Next up is the neck, which is this length of wood between the headstock and the body. The most important thing to understand about the neck is what a fret is. So these little areas of wood here separated by wires are called frets. So if I tell you to play on the first fret, it means to press down with one of your left-hand fingers somewhere between the nut here and this first wire called a fret wire, which runs perpendicular to the strings. Okay, so this whole area on any of the strings is called the first fret. This next area between these two fret wires would be called the second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret. So just remember that a fret isn't a single point. It's not right on that wire. That wire is just the end of the area referred to as the fret. So your finger actually presses down in between those wires. Okay, and you'll also see on most basses some kind of dots to help you keep track of which fret you're on. This bass only has them on the side of the neck. This Fender P-Bass has them down the middle too, so it's easier to see. You got one on the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th fret, double dot on the 12th fret because that's the repeat of the open string notes in the next octave, and then you've got dots on the 15, 17, 19 frets, which correspond to these guys. This bass only has 20 frets. My PV Cirrus here has 24 frets, and that's kind of the range you'll see on most basses, somewhere between 20 and 24. And one's not better than the other, it's just different basses for different purposes. A couple more things about the neck. This surface where you actually place your fingers and that the strings and fret wires are touching is called the fingerboard. Okay, so the whole thing is called the neck. The place where you actually put your fingers is called the fingerboard. And some basses, like this one, actually have a different piece of wood at the top of the neck as the fingerboard than the rest of the neck woods. This bass is a composite neck, so there's at least 3 different woods going on there. There's 2 different types here, and then there's a different wood as the fingerboard. Some basses will just have one big chunk of wood as the whole neck. The truss rod is something that's really important to know about. There's actually a metal rod running through the center of this neck, and what that does is it helps keep the neck straight over time because wood tends to warp unless you have a big thick metal rod running through the middle of it. One more thing about the neck before we move on to the body is the neck joint. There are 2 basic types of basses here. This is a bolt-on neck, which means that this chunk of wood is just attached to this chunk of wood by some bolts here at the neck joint. My PV Cirrus is a neck through, which means that the wood of the neck actually runs all the way through the body. So there isn't really a neck joint. It's just this area here, but there's no bolts or anything. Everything's just stuck together. These neck woods actually make up part of the body as well. Lastly, we have the body of the bass. There's a lot going on here. First of all, we've got our pickups, which are really important because that's what turns the acoustic vibration of the strings into something that can be heard by your amplifier and turned into nice, loud, solid bass. Otherwise, it would just sound like this and you wouldn't be able to hear it. So the pickups are very important. And this bass has 2 pickups. The P bass just has the 1 split coil pickup, so different basses are set up differently in that regard. Next up is the bridge. This is really important because this is where the strings are attached to the body. And they're resting here on what are called the bridge saddles. So the only 2 places the strings are actually touching the bass in this whole area is the nut and the bridge saddles, and everywhere else in between they're free to vibrate. So those are the 2 points where the string are fixed. And there's different bridge designs. This bass looks like this. This P-bass bridge, it all basically works the same, but you can see it looks a little bit different. In terms of electronics, there are a lot of different setups for different basses. This bass is an active bass, which means that I have bass, mid, and treble EQ knobs that are powered by a couple of 9-volt batteries back here. Whereas the P-bass is a much simpler setup where all I have is a volume knob and a passive tone knob, and there's no battery compartment or anything. So this is a much simpler electronic setup than the active PV Cirrus. I've also got my instrument jack here on the front of the bass, whereas on the PV, it's on the side here. So that may change your preference for straight angle versus right angle instrument cable jacks. This one works better with the right angle. The front of the bass sometimes works better with the straight angle. Last couple things in the kitchen sink on the body here. This part of the bass is called the horn, where this top strap button is affixed. And also on this bass, you can see I've got this nice big white pick guard, whereas the Cirrus does not have a pick guard, so your bass may or may not have one of those.